I kind of love badly written stories. Hear me out. Badly written stories provide an almost unmatched avenue for the study of writing those stories because of how worthwhile it can be to dissect them. It's often easier to figure out why something failed than why something else succeeded. And Velma is a great example of this in its approach to writing character arcs. If you've paid the slightest attention to discourse surrounding Western media in the last few years, you've definitely heard complaints about perfect characters. Characters who seem to be incapable of doing wrong in a meaningful way, where their most horrible flaw could be clumsiness or being too trusting or something equally benign, and how those characters are often hated by the audiences watching them. These characters are often accused of being unrelatable or too perfect or unrealistic or having no character arcs when looking for explanations as to why the audience dislikes them. And if we take a moment to look past the floating accusations and rumors of the show being rage bait or a tax write-off and assume the creators are actually trying to tell a story, I believe that Velma's interpretation of the mystery gang is an example of an overcorrection that misses the true problem. Each of the teens has a clear goal and arc prepared for them in the initial 2 episodes. Sort of. I hope. Fred has to escape the overbearing influences of his father's toxic parenting and accept himself, emotions and all. Daphne is searching for her birth parents to find out where she comes from, and to pull that off, she's selling drugs while hiding from her police parents. Also, she's going to be questioning her sexuality after episode 2's ending. Norville has to start doing drugs, I guess. Okay, he also probably has to get over being a simp for a girl who clearly isn't interested in him or worth it. And Velma needs to stop being a racist, bigoted, arrogant, belittling asshole. I could totally add more adjectives to that, by the way, I'm just choosing not to. So these are clearly flawed characters who have the building blocks of character arcs showing through. So why does everyone hate them? Well, there's the matter of using established and beloved characters as the vessels for these very negative character flaws, but that's just piling more onto the actual problem. The truth of the matter is, the problem was never that the so-called perfect characters are too perfect, and making them a bundle of flaws is hardly better. Flat characters exist as an example that you can have unchanging characters who don't need to learn anything and have no character arcs and still make them entertaining. I haven't watched Paddington 2, but I'm told it's the perfect example of this. The true things that are missing when these characters fail can be found by looking at them and realizing what they both lack. Audience investment, which in and of itself is caused by them lacking likability or entertainment value. You can make a character as flawed or as perfect as you want as long as you either A, make them likable to the audience in some way, or B, make them entertaining to watch. If the character is neither, it doesn't matter how great or bad a person they are, the audience won't like watching them. Please note, quality of writing also matters. Let's go back and look at the gang with this in mind. Warning, at this point my points are going to be much more opinionated because I'm looking at how I perceive their likability and entertainment value myself. Also, this will only be looking at the first 2 episodes because that's where we're introduced in them. Episode 3 and 4 might totally blow my mind, I don't know. Norville is boring. He has 2 modes, simping for Velma and not liking drugs. Neither of these are entertaining. The not liking drugs running gag was dead on arrival and every subsequent use of it probably counts as grave robbing. As for his relationship with Velma, well, that's tied to the fact that we're not invested in his pathetic attempts to get with the girl who is unlikable at best. After his plotline in episode 2 was trying to sell his organs so he can get money to try and pressure Velma into dating him, even as we clearly know he's wasting his time, I feel confident in saying he lacks entertainment value. The only thing going for Norville is that he isn't an asshole to anyone. Yet. Unlike our next example. Fred is actually the character I'd say has the best chance for general likability. Yes, I just said that. For one thing, everyone loves an underdog and this show won't stop using him as a punching bag, doing things like body shaming him for the size of his genitals, laughing at his inability to perform simple tasks, or framing him for murder. However, the scene that sticks in my mind is the scene where he defends Velma in front of the whole school and tells everyone that he thinks she's not the killer because he got to know her as a person. It's the closest thing to displaying empathy any of the main characters really get. There's also the factor that his moments of being an asshole stem from ignorance and a possible mental illness and not simple malice. But all that is just buried under waves and waves of how pathetic Fred is as a person, which makes him hard to watch, especially because the show clearly wants us to laugh at him. Daphne has fewer problematic traits than anyone else in the cast. She's really only mostly an asshole to Velma, which is understandable given Velma's personality and the possibility she murdered her friends in episode 1. I actually found episode 2 somewhat entertaining because it was about Daphne rubbing how much of an ignorant bitch Velma is in her face. I had zero care for this character in the first episode, and her making Velma realize she's a bigoted idiot was enough to rocket her up the list for me. It's not a very long list, but it is a list. And so we get to Velma, who is the biggest distillation of my point. As the title character, she's the one who it's most important we're invested in. So of course she's also the worst one. She has nothing but negative things to say to literally everyone in the most holier than thou, I think I'm smarter than you are way humanly possible. She's an asshole who goes out of her way to try to hurt people's feelings because she can't resist being judgmental. She does nothing but spout negativity at the characters, even with the ones who show relative care towards her and her well-being. There's hardly anything positive to latch onto in her character. Oh, there's her backstory, but that does nothing for her personality in the present. We're meant to care about her backstory because we in some way care about her, not have it retroactively make us tolerate how unpleasant she is. I actually like the idea of a main character going through an arc where she realizes she isn't as smart as she thinks she is and is actually very prejudiced. Great. I made a video about this exact topic like 2 years ago. But there's nothing about this character that makes me really care to see her undergo that arc any more than I want to see her get hit by a car. These characters have all been set up for arcs that would range from okay to actually interesting, but it's all for naught if your characters are completely unlikable or generally hard to watch, with any positivity buried under a mountain of unpleasantness. And on top of that, Velma seems to be trying to use humor to salvage what's left of their characters. But the show is so rarely funny that it doesn't work, and failed jokes only make it harder to watch because its idea of humor seems to be simply pointing out whatever cliche they're about to pull off and going, but yeah, we're totally doing that anyway. You could have the best character arcs in the world planned, but do not forget to make the characters those arcs are centered around in a way that will get the audience to want to keep watching them go through that arc. If they are boring or written in a way that results in the audience rejecting them, then you've already tripped up on the first step. But what do you think? Are Velma's characters more likable than I give them credit for? Or are the character arcs I described too generous? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section down below, and while you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Thank you and good day.